Welcome to Blueprint IoT. In this video, we will cover everything from getting started with your electronic layout in your computer down to having a final board in your hand, your own circuit board, etched by yourself in a laboratory setup, so you can assemble all your components and test your project. So we will cover all the materials involved and each individual process step that you need to do. So to get started, first thing is to get your own film actually. We have a dedicated video on how to export your film from a software, but in terms of printing, you basically just go with a normal office printer and then you print it onto your translucent paper. In terms of two-layer designs, what I like to do is basically tape the two films, top and bottom layer, together in like a sandwich configuration that I can just slide in my PCB raw or PCB material, and thereby the top and the bottom layer is perfectly aligned. So first step is to remove the protective sticker that's basically protecting the photoresist that's coated onto the copper from light that it's not being developed already by accident. Once this protective liner is removed, time is of the essence, because now each little bit of light that you have in the room, might be sunlight, might be other light, will start to develop your film, and that's what you don't want to have. So from here on, let's try to be quick. Next up, we close the UV exposure machine. There are different setups. Some can expose from one side only, some can expose from the top and the bottom at the same time. But no matter which one it is, you usually want to make sure that the film is flush onto your PCB raw material. You can use this in this type machine with a vacuum that's basically sucking this plastic liner onto the film, that's pressing down the film onto the circuit board, which is very important to not have some kind of overshining effect, which is basically light creeping between your film and your PCB raw material. Once that's all done, you set the timer, you hit go, and basically just wait for the exposure. The exact time highly depends on the type of UV light source that you have available, as well as on the raw material, especially the coating, the photoresist coating that you have on top of your copper layer basically on your circuit board. Once exposure is done, you open up the machine again, you release the vacuum, and then you can open up the protective glass layer and extract your circuit board. The next step after exposure is to go as fast as possible to the development bath. That's just, again, not losing time, not being exposed to any other light that's not supposed to be there. And you basically slide it carefully into the bath to not spill any of the liquid. In case you're wondering which type of liquids are used here, check out the dedicated video about which chemicals are used in the etching process. To help the process of development, it helps to just like move carefully the development liquid back and forth. You can do such a wave movement as you can see here. You can also just wait for a while, and here you see like yellowish lines already. That's already your design coming through. And at some point you will see little clouds, basically black clouds on the surface of the circuit board. And from there on, once you move the wave, then you see like a whole circuit board layer shifting, and that's basically the photoresist that's now being dissolved and now can be removed. So you wiggle around a little bit. What you might want to do as well is to turn the whole circuit board around. You can use little tools. You can also use, when you have proper gloves on, your hands, but be careful and wash your gloves as well afterwards, that you're not cross-contaminating anything. And from there on, you really try to get rid of all the black smoke, let's say, that's on the circuit board. So you're finished with development. Once there are no black clouds anymore on the circuit, monitor the features closely. As soon as they start getting thinner, as they thin out, then it's basically too late already. So you can't stay forever in development bath, because if you stay too long, the development bath will eventually attack the photoresist, even though it wasn't exposed to a UV light before because it was protected by the film. But at some point, you're too long in the development bath, and then your features, your pads and so on will thin out. What helps sometimes is just use your finger and, without scratching the surface, just slightly remove any residue particles that's still on there from the photoresist. Sometimes it's hard to get rid of it. Next step is the actual etching process. So you just put it into the etching bath, and you see we have this special setup here. That's something you can buy on the market usually, depending on where you are. and it's basically a combination of air bubbles and a heating element to warm everything up, but we will get to this in a second. You can see at the beginning, you can right away see which areas are etched. That's not yet done. It's just like getting thinner and thinner in terms of the copper layer, and thereby it's lighten up. But anyway, down the line in terms of time, depending on how saturated your etching bath is already, it can take anything from 10, 20 to 30 minutes. It gets longer every time you etch another circuit board. And you can see at some point you will get this yellowish color, and that's basically the core of the circuit board, the epoxy and glass fiber layer. That's usually a yellowish color. And once you see that color, or you can see through the circuit board basically, then you know everything is etched away. You just check all the edges of all the features, of all the circuits, of all the pads, and once that's all fine, you know you're done and you get your circuit board out of there. At the beginning, the etching liquid will be translucent, basically transparent, and then over time it's clouding and getting more and more bluish, which is basically the copper that's now starting to saturate the liquid. You might have noticed here that there is a solid copper area on the right hand side. Reason being is that we try to minimize the copper we need to etch away, because that's all using up or saturating our etching liquid. That's expensive, that's chemicals into the environment, so we try to minimize the use of the etching liquid by minimizing the amount of copper that we get rid of. And there are two main ways to do that. One is like a big copper area like you see here. The other one is when you have a circuit board that you only have the circuits left behind, or like you see on the other side here, that you have small areas around the features etched away. But let's take a closer look on that. On the left hand side, that's your final circuit that you want to aim for. It's just an example here. So get rid of the component. So that's basically the circuit board you're aiming for. At the beginning, it's all copper. Then you go into the etching process and you etch away all the copper. So everything that's yellow is basically copper that we had to etch away. The other option is to do quite the opposite, to just etch the outline. In this case, we would just etch a little bit of copper away around the circuits, around the pads and so on. So the copper that we actually had to etch away is the yellow surface, and you can see the square millimeter surface on the left hand side versus the right hand side is drastically different. So this technique is preserving the use of your etching liquid, better for the environment, and you can etch many more circuit boards in the same etching bath before you need to change the etching liquid. I want to touch base on design rules very quickly here. One thing you can see here already on the left hand side, we just have a T-section, so a 90-degree angle between two circuits. That's something we want to avoid. On the right hand side you see one solution here, which is basically this little triangle, so you only have 45-degree angles. That's what you're always aiming for, only 45-degree angles. Next up is basically the thickness of your circuits. So the black areas are the photoresist protecting your future circuits. The etching liquid is flowing across it and slowly etching away the copper in between, getting like a little bit of a valley shape, and then eventually cutting on the edges completely. A side effect here is now the etching liquid is inside this valley, and now you have areas that are not protected from the top, and the etching liquid can creep in on those sides. So it will eat away the circuit slowly from the side and basically thin out your circuit. For that reason, you should always try to have your circuits designed a little thicker than what you need in terms of conductivity for your actual application, because as thicker you design your circuit, as more time you buy yourself in the process. Maybe the 80% is already etched nicely, but there are some spots that are still not etched perfectly. You still would have some short circuits. So as thicker your circuit is, the more time you can afford actually to suffer from this effect of the circuits getting thinner, and as more time you have in the etching bath to clear out those last little spots that are giving you trouble. We'll have some examples later on. Next up is the distance between those circuits. You have some examples here. One is a thick one, easy, so the liquid can get in nicely, can basically flush out all the particles that are all the liquid that's already saturated. Meantime, on the other side, on the left hand side, we see it's much thinner, and the liquid it's much harder for the liquid to get in and out there. The friction is basically much higher, and we have these little areas there in the corners where we basically have standing liquid. So the etching liquid is not moving there as much as it would be in a thicker and a wider valley, let's say. Therefore, the copper saturation will be higher in those little spots in the corners, and the total etching process will be slower. And then you run into the same problem that we just mentioned before, which is in the thick valley, in the wide valley, you already etched out perfectly, and now you're basically eating away your actual circuit, while with the thin valleys, with the thin distances between the circuits, you're not yet done and you need to stay longer in the etching bath. So that's where you get the trouble between the trade-off of being not too long and not too short in the etching liquid. But let's go back to the actual etching liquid. Here you can see nicely the air bubbles forming and starting to basically move all the liquid around. So let's quickly touch base on a couple of things that are happening here and why. First of all, we have the air bubbles, which enable a uniform mixing of the etching liquid, which is not just in terms of like saturation, but also in terms of temperature. Temperature is the next point. We need some heat source to ease the reaction of the etching itself and provide us with overall faster processing time. Next up, you should always have some safety margin around the edges, because the frame that's holding the circuit board is covering your circuit board a little bit and it can't etch there very well. That's also the reason why we try to tilt the circuit board in the frame here to expose the whole circuit board to the etching liquid. Here we can see one of the spots that I mentioned earlier, where you might have, for whatever reason, not such a good etching, maybe the saturation was higher whatsoever, and that's when you need extra time in the etching bath. Here we have a T-shape. It of course basically is the same design twice on one raw material. So again, try to minimize the area that you need to etch. Here we can see on the left hand side areas of copper like shaped around your actual circuit. For those examples we had bright light on, but usually you try to have low light, generally low intensity light, and also yellow light, which is a lower energy intense light than normal UV light. UV light is the worst, so even if it's like a bright light, as long as it's artificial, it's much less powerful than the actual sunlight. What you can hear here in the background is a ventilation, because that's a ventilated cabinet to evacuate any kind of fumes that would pose a potential risk. Before we continue with our laboratory setup here to etch a circuit board, let me quickly mention to you the sponsor of this video, which is actually the right partner if you want to do an industrial grade circuit board. So if you don't have this setup available at home or at your university, you can go to JLC PCB on their website and you can order any type of circuit board made from an industrial process, and you can start ordering from one piece to many more pieces, no matter what you want. You can really calculate everything on their website, and you can see here their facilities are top notch. They're running many different discounts, and you can check them out via the link in the description. Set up your account and you can immediately calculate the price and everything for your circuit board. While this all sound maybe convincing, you can't really be sure that they are a really good supplier, right? And to address this issue, we are proud to announce that we will have a collaboration with JLC PCB very soon, and we will go to their factories in China and have a complete walkthrough through all of their facilities, check out every process step that we do here in the lab and how this works in an industrial scale basically, and then we will bring those factory tours as YouTube videos to you guys, and you can have yourself a look and hopefully then have a really good understanding of how those guys are working and which quality standards they have, and if you can trust them with your order. So make sure to subscribe to not miss out on those behind the scenes exclusive factory tours that we will do in China very soon, and you can get a really exclusive look behind the scenes into an industrial scale operation to produce circuit boards. But let's go back to our laboratory setup, where we do everything manually and we basically just mimicking the industrial process. So here you can see a smaller circuit board, and that's actually made by cutting the circuit board, the raw material, into smaller pieces. For this we use not a standard cutting process, it's basically a punching process that we can punch through the glass fiber. It makes a really satisfying sound in my opinion, and after that we go for drilling. We have the opportunity to use a PCB drilling machine. It's actually also a PCB printing machine. It's called, well, Terra 1, which is a $5,000 machine. So if you don't have this, do it manually. And to do so, make your own drilling template. So basically assign one color for each diameter, and then you just use a small drilling machine to drill your holes as precise as possible. This might take a while, but in terms of it's only like 20-50 holes, it's quite quick. Moving on, the last process step is coating. We want to coat it with a soldering flux that will help us later on assemble our parts. And the green color of circuit boards, in case you wonder, that's basically just a soldering mask that's optional and you don't really need it for your project setup. Once you're done with your circuit board itself, time for assembly. It helps to have everything documented nicely digitally in your software, and then it's time to pick and place manually your parts. Also, that, by the way, will be covered in our video series with JLC PCB in China, the pick and place machines and the incredible speeds possible there. But for your project, that's a homegrown project, a maker project, a student project, it's easy to make this manually, solder everything down quickly. No problem here. If you need a couple of trials, just get into it and eventually you will have your whole circuit board ready. In this case, this is a multicolor LED lamp. So try it out at home, make your own projects. And if you want to learn more about electronics and IoT, make sure to be subscribed. Thanks for watching and see you next time.